All right, it's time for us to give you what the newspapers are saying this morning, some of the big stories making headlines across Nigeria. We're going to be starting on the Punch newspapers, and we're also going to be having someone join us to analyze these stories. The Punch this morning, big one there says, Tinubu reviews documents as CBN investigator submits interim report. It says Nigerians will know what really went wrong and what brought us down, says the SGF. Of course, from past experiences, I think a lot of Nigerians would not hold their breath with this one, because there have been calls to investigate and audit the CBN and the NNPC and many other major government parastatals for decades, and it still hasn't brought anything out of it. At least it hasn't borne any fruit. Anyway, still on the Point this morning. The strike, Labour accuses federal government of delay. NLC Exco meets today. Vandals destroy 108 transmission towers. Federal government alleges sabotage. And also, Senate screens CBN Governor Cardoso and deputies today.
And you have further down on the Punch, NYG athletes lament poor conditions and maltreatment. And that's National Youth Games. And then Jandor kicks as tribunal dismisses PDP LP petitions against Sanwo-Olu. Police arrest suspected Shagamu cult leader, 18 others. And the final one there at the bottom right of the Punch, impeachment. Ayedatiwa sues Ondo Assembly. Speaker alleges threat to life. And of course, that's coming to you from the Punch this morning. That big headline, Tinubu reviews documents as CBN investigator submits interim report. I know many of us will also remember that there might be I won't say personal, but of course we know how situations with the former CBN governor, Dr. Godwin Emefiele, and the then presidential candidate of the APC, Tinubu, also played out, taking him to court because of the new Naira redesign, or the Naira redesign situation, and how it affected Nigerians as well. But of course, with the calls for this investigation, one other question is, will this report, whether interim or the final, also be made public? Because, of course, Nigerians do really want to know what went wrong. We want to know if those who are in charge of monetary and fiscal policy, of controlling inflation, of doing all this kind of work to make the economy much more better and easier for Nigerians, if they were either sleeping on the job or they were out for themselves. But will Nigerians get the full details? I think that's another question we need to ask.
But let's bring in Katch on Ononuju to share his views on this one. If he's expecting that there would be a proper auditing of the CBN in the last couple of years, and if maybe people would be properly called to question. Mr. Ononuju, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good.
Great to have you as always. I want to get your views on this one. The new government is reviewing the CBN document, and of course is saying that, of course, the investigator will submit his report today. They're saying that they would, Nigerians rather, would know what went wrong and what brought us down. And that's according to the government. Do you expect anything out of this?
If you ask me, I will tell you that the current government is also part of what brought us down. Because the essence of democracy is to be able to win elections and then act in such a way as to improve the lot of your constituents. And the lot of the constituents of the current government is the lot of Nigerians. And if them as party leaders kept quiet while things went bad, then they should be seen to be complicit in the rot. I have said before on this particular program that it was a good thing to interrogate Emefiele, because if you want to find out what went wrong in any system of governance, the right thing to do is to follow the money. And following the money is good. So I hear we will have the interim report today. It's good because the singings that Emefiele has been singing are the reasons why we have an inkling into what transpired in the 8 years of the Buhari presidency. So I think holding Emefiele is the right thing to do, but it should be done within the ambits of the law. Now, going forward, I don't see anything wrong. We should interrogate Emefiele more, ask him more of the questions. But Tinubu should own the courage to act in regards to whatever he sees in that report. It's not just you have reports and then you back, but you don't bite. No, we want Tinubu to bite. We want him to do the right thing We want him to pursue those who are implicated in the report. We know about these things. We heard about them. We followed what Mr. Funtua was doing in terms of forest stripping. We know about the Dangote issue. We also understand that a lot of Nigeria's money went into the Dangote refinery and into other places. So let us have an interrogation that brings us an audit that tells us how much of our money went into such private ventures, or rather supposedly private ventures. There are a lot of things that we must ask questions. And that's why I say, in asking those questions, Tinubu should also understand he's complicit. Why? He, as a party leader, did not say anything. He did not say a word while those intransigencies were being carried out. And that's why I say all of them in the APC must see themselves as being complicit. Why? They kept quiet while the malfeasance went on in the CBN.
Okay, so let's look at quickly at another story on the front page of the Punch, and that's strike. Labor accuses FG of delay. NLC Exco meets today. So we've been on this for about a week now. And of course, we know the conversation with the TUC, and the TUC saying that they would give the government, I think, about 2 weeks, a 2-week ultimatum, waiting for the president to come back from Onga and see the government go through with some of its promises. But Labor has accused the FG of delay because the government was meant to get back to the National Labor Congress. Even if they call a strike, I think that's one of my big questions. Aside from their members, do you think even labor itself carries the weight it used to carry with Nigerians to get Nigerians to also strike? Or it might be a stay-at-home protest, because that's what they said last time.
Well, in all this, I have followed these things up, and I believe the big announcement you will hear will be the review salary scale. I think that's what Tinubu promised Labour at the very inception of these rounds of negotiations. When they did their first strike notice, the government told them that they will, in line with the increase in hardship, raise the disposable income that's available in the pockets of workers, and that's what we interpreted in. There will be an increase in disposable take-home pay. So I think that's what I think will come, but I don't see anything. We've seen all this before between Labour and government. They know themselves, and I'm not carried away by this. I welcome the removal of subsidy. It's a good thing, but the problem is the subsidy was not removed in a way that we will say had to do with proper government calculations. No. It was removed simply because the lenders insisted that you need to stop the subsidy. But then where is the government's own plan? Yes, you have to remove the subsidy and we support it, but you have to have a plan. Just like Goodluck Jonathan had a plan when he removed the subsidy, and President Tinubu and other people went to the streets to say, no, they don't agree. Now we've seen from the confessions by some of their leaders, their intellectual champion, Fayemi, has said already that they did those out of politics, and in retrospect, they now recognize they are wrong. So fine. For the sake of the country's good, let us find a proper way to embrace this, not just the same hill and whatever, because I've seen something yesterday. I saw a contract for an east-west road issued without proper bidding. I think that is very wrong from the Tinubu administration. You cannot be complaining that things are wrong and yet you're committing your own wrongs. I don't think that is right. So the contractual negotiations between Labour and government will continue to go on, but I do not expect plenty. I don't think the subsidy will return. Of course, it's been returned now because the fiscal policies are not intact, and that's what I saw, the sustained ballooning of the cost of dollar and its effect in the petroleum pricing has actually forced the government to fearfully go back to doing some quality of subsidy. So we're not here, there is subsidy return. So we are watching subsidy return because the government is afraid of the consequences of the actions of President Buhari's administration, which now carried over to Tinubu's administration, because we'll say government is a continuum. So I don't expect much from the government-labor negotiations now. I only am looking to
Mr.
see
Ononuju, kindly hold on. We're gonna come back to you. All right, welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still looking through the newspapers this morning to see what we can squeeze out. Let's see what's on the Guardian newspapers. It says Cardoso faces Senate. I hope I pronounced that name right. Under FX pressure, loss of confidence. It brings us back to the conversation on the CBN and what the new challenges would be for the new CBN governor. He definitely has a lot to deal with. And it says there, Cardoso has to deal with spiking inflation, volatile exchange rate, $6.8 billion backlog, contentious 22.7 trillion ways and means advances, ambitious external reserves, falling bank adequacy ratio, and high interest rate. Yes, it's a lot of work. Nigeria to reduce oil sector's contracting cycle to 6 months, and also Ondo deputy governor approaches court to stop his impeachment.
Then we also have Nigeria records 7,202 diphtheria cases, 453 deaths. That's a major story that's starting to get more coverage now. Labor to declare indefinite strike, mobilizes state councils for showdown. Court dismisses PDP, Labor's petitions against Sanwo-Olu Hamzat. And then East-West Road still abandoned. Hellish 17 years on. And our analyst, Katch Ononuju, who's with us, was also mentioning that as well. But if you are very much interested in what the potentially incoming CBN governor is going to face, I know it's a conversation that will be happening on Business Edge at 11 a.m. West African time. But Katch, CBN Governor Cardoso coming in, likely he's being screened by the Senate. That's our expectation today. He was also one of those who worked with President Tinubu when the president was a two-term governor of Lagos State. His appointment, or rather his nomination, didn't come to many people as a surprise, but the weights and the trouble on his desk, that's where we are right now. What do you think of Cardoso?
What I knew him in Ikeja, when he was the commissioner for economic planning, because me, myself, I'm an Ikeja person. So he's quite an efficient person. But then you see, Nigeria's monetary policy as governed by the central bank is a totally different thing. If the people at the top will allow, because the problem we had before was Buhari assumed control of both fiscal and monetary policy, because if you understand, the business of Ministry of Finance is fiscal policy, and that of the central bank is monetary policy. But under the Buhari administration, Buhari seized control of everything as a way to actually control the economy, and that was what forced the initial capital flight, because investors just were not comfortable with the president seizing everything, and we didn't know where the demarcations were. I pray that when Cardoso comes, they will allow him to do the management of the monetary policy and not the people at the executive grabbing control of both monetary and fiscal policy. Well, there's a lot of things they will ask him. He will, of course, answer in the affirmative, give them very, very nice grammar and words that they would like to hear. But as they say, the test of the cooking is in the eating. So let's check the pudding in the eating. No matter what the rhetorics are that he uses to impress the people at the Senate, I will wait to see how he reacts to our current crisis. As you've seen, part of that crisis is maintaining a stable single window for the exchange rate, which we didn't do before, and which gave rise to the incidence of trippings. Those trippings should be kept aside, and I pray this government will respect its words and hold on to what it has said. Let's see Cardoso moving, and let's see how the government reacts to Cardoso in regards to the previous pronouncements regarding fiscal policy and monetary policy. It's one thing for politicians to blow a lot of rhetorics. It's another thing when they start to act. So what I would say is I expect him to pass because he is very capable and his reputation precedes him, having been Commissioner for Economic Planning previously in Lagos State. There's impact I wouldn't know. But let him come to the center and let's see from the policies. I would not want to say anything, but I know he is a capable person in gaining the trust of Mr. Tinubu. That's what I can tell you.
Well,
so as you've seen, he's been migrating a lot of those that he worked with in Lagos to Abuja. Probably he's more comfortable with them, and I cannot take that from him. Nobody knows Cardoso more than President Tinubu, and That's why he trusts him to give him the job. So let's just look at what happens, not the rhetoric that he throws at central bank to gain the passage of his nomination.
Mr. Ononuju, it wouldn't stop those who are saying, of course, Tinubu is bringing back nepotism, into government, the same way, the Buhari administration was accused. And it was the same excuse that was given by Buhari's administration, that he's working with people he's comfortable with and people that he knows. So it's not very different from, that time, what we're seeing now. But if you can, I want you to quickly speak on the East-West Road still abandoned, hellish 17 years on. I saw a picture yesterday of one of the cities in the UAE. I'm not sure which of them now, but they have a plan for what they want the city to look like by 2030 or 2040. And one of the reactions that I saw, when that picture was posted was that, this is a country that seems to know what it wants for itself and its citizens, and is using its oil money to do the best and build its city. But we have been dealing with Lagos-Ibadan Expressway for decades, and it's still not ready. It's still not done. So when we see things like East-West Road still abandoned, isn't it embarrassing for Nigeria as a country?
Well, I think you are the person making the mistake. You are very ambitious and presumptuous. You think Nigeria is like UAE. No, UAE is a nation. Nigeria is not a nation. Nigeria is a country with a lot of ethnic nations, most of them seeking Nigeria on their own terms. So, but we have not yet become a nation where we will sit down and agree on terms of progress and moving forward. We've not gotten to that. That's why you see we will waste all that money on East-West Road, and suddenly now Mr. Gilbert Shagiri will now be announced as the new contractor who has won a new contract for the East-West Road. That's what it is, because he will just look at the East-West Road, then seize the East-West Road, do what he will do, and start to toll it. Now that, for me, it's a scam. That is economic terrorism against your own country. A road that we have wasted so much money on for years and decades, we now want to give it to private hands. Don't forget who Mr. Gilbert Shagiri is. Shaguri is the person whom Abacha sold the Eco Hotels to. Eco Hotels that was built by Okpa Beseka after he collected all the back payments for East Central State, built it, and later on the army sold it to a consortium controlled by Lagos State government. Abacha himself sold it to Gilbert Shagiri. When Shagiri now sought to expand on Eco Hotel by building the new Eco Atlantic City on the Korama waters, Tinubu went to court. But he was later to go to Tinubu and say, look, calm down, governor. There's a lot for a lot of us. And that was how Gilbert Shagiri and Tinubu became partners, and they started building the Eco Atlantic City. That's how, with his high-tech construction company, he did some job first with Oji Zokali in Abia State. They moved high-tech construction to Lagos to do the check of the ocean shore along the Nigeria Fisheries Institute and NTA on Osumbambadewe Road. And after that was stopped on the Bar Beach, High-Tech became a well-known company. That is High-Tech, owned by Gilbert Shagiri, Tinubu's friend, who has been bringing him to Paris and getting him in link with the French government. So he is now extending it. What this tells you is Gilbert Shagiri is likely to become the new Dangote in Tinubu's administration. That's what it is. All the big contracts, all the big suggestions, all the big money things, Shagiri has the capacity to actually bring the money to bear to carry these things out. That's what he's telling you now. He's yesterday told you, my economic drum major is Gilbert Shagiri. And that was what you saw yesterday, the opening song, the opening dance, the opening introduction, which is the historically known East-West Road, is now to be taken over by Gilbert Shagiri, to be built by him, and then he will toll it. All right. And I did not see any bid from competing.
We have to wrap up here
before this was done.
Yeah, we have to wrap up here, unfortunately. Yes, and I remember during the campaign, there were pictures of Bola Tinubu and the Shaguri brothers in France, I believe. During, I think it was late last year, or, during the campaign season. But thanks very much for your time. We always enjoy conversations with you, and we look forward to speaking with you again.